All right, so in your spreadsheet that you've got with all of your data in it, you're going to want to do a few things just to make it a little bit easier to read. So I'm just going to give you a few suggestions. So this was the kind of the sample survey that I created. And this is, I just made up 11 or 12 different responses and put them in here. So a couple of things you will notice, because it's anonymous, it didn't collect any emails, but you can't really read this that well. So I'm going to do a couple things. One, the timestamp doesn't really matter. So rather than deleting it, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go up here and on our little drop down, we're going to hide this column. Okay. I mean, I probably could delete it and it's not going to make any difference, but I'm just going to go ahead and have it hidden for right now, just in case I wanted to go back and do it. The second thing I'm going to do is, you see it just kind of runs through you can't see the whole questions up here. So I'm just going to select my whole spreadsheet by clicking on that upper left-hand box. And then I'm going to go and over here where it's where for text wrapping, I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to choose that one in the middle, the one that has the little bendy arrow, which just means the text is going to wrap. And so that allows me to see like all of the questions. And then, you know, I could, if I want to, like in this last column, this was where I was gathering some qualitative data, not just numbers. I might want to space that out a little bit. So I don't know, maybe I'll make that a little bit bigger. And this one, the I feel lonely question, I'll make that a little bit smaller just so I can kind of condense it all. It's nice if you can see everything on one screen. So I can see everything, which is great. Another thing I like to do is I do like to have everything kind of lined up in the center. So again, I'll highlight everything and then just go here, kind of like when you're working on a Google Doc. And instead of doing it left orientated, I'm going to put it in the center. So that just kind of lines everything up and makes it look a little bit nicer. And then the last thing I'm going to do is that first question that you asked was supposed to divide your sample into two different groups. Now, we're not going to do anything with those two different groups today, but you are going to want to separate those out later. So this is just the order that they were responded in, but I'm going to go through up at the top. I'm going to select that column and then use my arrow key. And we did this before where we randomized the range. I don't want to randomize this. I'm going to go A to Z. And so that's putting it in alphabetical order, which is essentially going to put all the yeses together and all the nos together. And you'll notice when I do this, you can see what happens to the rest of the data in the other columns. So I'm just going to click A to Z. And it puts that first row in alphabetical order. So all the nos went, up at the top and all the yeses went second. But all of the data that went with those responses got shuffled around with it. So that's good. You don't have to highlight everything. All you have to do is highlight that first row. Okay, so the last thing that you are going to do is you're going to be calculating the mean, the median, and the mode using our spreadsheets. And really, we don't typically do, like in real life, you don't do a lot of calculations by hands because typically you're working with a lot of data. So I'm going to label in my spreadsheet down here. Let's just go mean, median, and mode. And so it's always good to label things on your spreadsheet. So like when you have all these numbers, you actually know what they represent. So how do we figure out the mean, the median, and the mode? Well, anytime you're doing any sort of a function or an equation, you always start it in Google Sheets or Excel, whatever you're using, with an equal sign. Now, I am going to be doing the command for mean is average. So if I start typing average, you'll see it pops up right there, average. And so I'm going to click on that. And you notice it kind of looks like for what numbers I want to do the average for, and it already highlighted those numbers up for me. Let's say that it didn't do that. I'm going to delete this. So if I just click average, you have to tell the computer like what you're going to take the average for. And so I want to go from, what's that, C2 down to C13. So if it doesn't automatically recognize that, you can just kind of click and drag to highlight that. Okay, and so that what it does is it calculates the average for all of those numbers. And if it's not a whole number, that decimal, it'll just keep going. I'm going to go ahead and reduce the number of decimal points that shows up. We don't need to be that accurate in a survey like this. I'll go ahead and go to the hundredths place. Okay, so that would be the mean for that first question on whether someone feels lonely or not. Okay, and so when I do the median, okay, it's kind of the same thing. I start with an equal sign, but rather than typing average, I'm going to start typing median. And you see it pops up right there. And it says, okay, let's do the median. Now, this one didn't give me the like, hey, do you want to take the median for these cells? And so you have to, tell it what cells you're looking at. And I could go through and I could click and drag and highlight all those, or I could just type in the numbers. Like I could do, I'm going from C2 and then with a colon down to C13. C13. And you see it automatically kind of highlights it for me, what I'm looking at right there. So that's another way to select the cells. Okay. And so the median for that set of data is 2.5. And then last is the mode. So to do that, you do equals, start typing, you might guess, mode. And then again, I'll click and drag this one. And that returns a value of 2. And you can see in this one, there's the 2 comes up here, 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 5 different times, which is why that's what the mode is. So that's how you calculate the mean, median, and mode. And the nice thing about this is once you've got that, if I just like copy all of those, okay, I could go over and paste it into the next column. And what it does is it actually knows that you're to look at the values that are directly above it. And I could even highlight these last 2 columns and just paste that into there. And it'll go through real quickly and easily and calculate the mean, the median, and the mode. So that is how you do it on a Google Sheet.